If you are watching this, there is a good chance that somewhere in your family something has come apart. Maybe a child who no longer calls, maybe a marriage that ended, or one that is quietly ending right now, in silence, at the same kitchen table where you used to laugh. Maybe brothers and sisters who do not speak anymore and cannot even remember exactly why. Maybe a holiday table that gets smaller every year, with more empty chairs and fewer reasons to gather. I know that ache. It is one of the deepest aches a person can carry, because family is supposed to be the one thing that holds, the one place you can always go back to. And when it cracks, it feels like the ground itself has cracked under your feet. People from the outside world come to where I live, and they see how we live. 3 and 4 generations on one piece of land, and they ask me the same question almost every time. They ask, how do your families stay together when ours fall apart? And I always tell them the same thing. Your families are not falling apart because you love each other less than we do. You love your people just as much as I love mine. Your families are falling apart because the world quietly took away the thing that used to hold them together. And it took it away so slowly that nobody even noticed it was gone until the whole thing started to crumble. And once you understand what that thing is, you can begin to put it back. Even out there, even now, even in a family that already feels half lost. So let me tell you the hard truth first, the one that sounds cold but is actually the most hopeful thing I can tell you. Families do not stay together because of love. I know that is not what you have been told. You have been told that love is what holds a family together, that if you just love each other enough, you will stay. But I have lived a long time and watched a great many families, mine and others, and I will tell you plainly, love is weather. It comes and it goes. There are seasons in every family, in every marriage, in every bond between a parent and child, where the warm feeling simply is not there, where you look at the person across the table and feel nothing but tiredness or even resentment. That happens to everyone. It happened to my own marriage more times than I could count over 50 years. If love had been the only thing holding us together, we would have come apart a dozen times, the same as everyone else. Love is not the foundation. Love is the flower that grows when the foundation is strong. And the foundation, the thing underneath, the thing that actually holds, is something the world threw away. It is need. It is duty. It is promises that cannot be broken. It is being so woven into each other's daily survival that walking away is not even a door you can open. That is what holds a family. And the modern world removed every single piece of it in the name of freedom and happiness, and then could not understand why the families fell down. Let me explain what I mean, because this is the whole heart of it. In the old way, the family was not a feeling. It was a unit of survival. You needed each other to live. The father could not bring in the harvest without the sons. The mother could not feed and clothe the family without the daughters. The children could not grow up without the parents, and the old ones could not survive without the family caring for them. Every single person in that house needed every other person, every day, just to keep living. And when you need someone that deeply, you do not walk away from them because you had a bad week, or because you fell out of the warm feeling, or because someone new seems more exciting. You cannot walk away. Your survival is stitched to theirs, and so you stay. And here is the beautiful thing that happens when you stay. You learn to mend. You learn to work through the hard season instead of fleeing it, because fleeing is not an option. And the love that grows after you have mended a hard thing together, that deep, weathered, tested love, is 1,000 times stronger than the easy love you started with. The world today removed all the need. Everyone can feed themselves, house themselves, entertain themselves, survive completely alone. So the family stopped being a unit of survival and became a unit of feeling. A thing you keep only as long as it makes you happy. And anything you keep only as long as it makes you happy, you will eventually drop, because nothing makes you happy all the time. That is the secret. The modern family did not fall apart because of some great wickedness. It fell apart because it became optional. And what is optional gets abandoned the moment it gets hard. My grandfather, who farmed the same land his father farmed, told me when I married, he said, "You are not promising to feel a certain way about this woman for the rest of your life. No man can promise that, and any man who does is a liar or a fool. You are promising to stay. That is all a marriage promise really is. Not, I will always feel love, but I will always stay, whether the love is there that day or not. And I will keep staying until the love comes back. And it always comes back if you stay long enough." He said the people out there have it backward. They think the feeling comes first, and then you stay because of the feeling. But it is the other way around. You stay first, you keep your promise first, and the feeling grows because you stayed. He said a marriage is like a tree. You do not pull a young tree out of the ground every winter just because it stopped giving fruit and looks dead. You leave it in the ground. You trust the roots. And spring comes, and it gives fruit again. The people out there are pulling up their trees every winter, he said, and then they wonder why they have no orchard, why nothing in their life has had time to grow deep roots. Everything they plant, they pull up at the first cold season. And so they spend their whole lives with shallow things that never get a chance to become strong. Let me tell you about Jacob and Rebekah. They married young, the way we do. And for the first years it was good, the way it usually is at first. But then came a hard stretch, the kind every long marriage has, and the kind nobody warns you about. They lost a baby. And grief does strange things to two people. Instead of pulling them together, it pushed them apart. Rebekah closed up like a flower at night, and Jacob, not knowing what to do with his own pain, buried himself in his work and was hardly home. They stopped talking. They lived in the same house like two strangers sharing a roof, each one alone in their grief, each one quietly blaming the other for not making it better. Now, in the outside world, you know how this story usually ends. This is the exact point where the modern family breaks. This is where one of them says, "I am not happy anymore. We have grown apart." And they leave, and they tell themselves they are being brave and honest, and the family shatters, and the children, if there are children, spend the rest of their lives carrying the crack. But Jacob and Rebekah could not leave, not because anyone forced them to stay against their will, but because in their world, in their hearts, leaving was simply not a door that existed. They had made a promise before God and the whole community, and that promise was not a feeling, it was a wall. And walls do not move just because the weather turns cold inside the house. So they stayed, through the cold, through the silence, through months of it, and slowly, because they had no exit to run for, they were forced to turn and face each other. They began to talk again, painfully at first, then more. They grieved their child together instead of alone. And on the other side of that long winter, they found a love deeper than anything they had known before they lost the baby, a love that had been forged in the hardest fire a couple can walk through. They are old now, like me, and they will tell you that the years after that loss were the best of their marriage. But they only got those years because they could not leave. The very thing the modern world would call a trap, the unbreakable promise, was the thing that saved them. It held them in the room long enough for the love to find its way back. Now I want you to really hear this, because it is the lesson hiding inside that story. The strength of a family is not measured in the good seasons. Anyone can stay through the good seasons. The strength of a family is measured in whether it can survive the bad ones. And the modern family has been built with no way to survive a bad season, because it was built on the feeling, and the feeling always fails eventually. So the first thing I want to teach you is this. Stop believing that the right family, the right marriage, the right relationship with your children is the one that always feels good. That family does not exist anywhere on earth. Every real bond goes through winters. The question is not whether you will hit a hard season. You will. The question is whether you have built something underneath the feeling that can hold you through it. A promise you treat as unbreakable. A commitment that does not depend on your mood that day. The modern world taught you to leave whenever you stopped being happy and called it self-respect. But there is another kind of self-respect, an older and deeper kind, the kind that says, I am the sort of person who keeps their word even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. I do not abandon my people when the weather turns. I stay and I mend and I trust that spring will come. Let me tell you about how we raise our children, because this is where the family is either built strong or built weak, long before anyone is grown. In the outside world, children have become guests in their own homes. They are fed and clothed and entertained and asked for nothing in return. They have no real work, no real responsibility, no sense that the family actually needs them. And a child who is not needed does not bond to the family. He bonds to whatever does seem to need him, his friends, his screens, the wide world out there. And the moment he is old enough, he is gone, because nothing ever rooted him at home. Among us, it is different. A child has real work from the time he can walk. Small work at first, then more. He gathers the eggs, he feeds the animals, he helps in the field, he minds the younger ones. And this is not cruelty, though the outside world sometimes thinks it is. It is the opposite. It is the greatest gift you can give a child, because a child who is needed knows he belongs. A child who works beside his father in the field has 1,000 hours with that father that the modern child never gets. A child who helps her mother put up the harvest learns who her mother is, learns the family's whole way of being in the doing of the work together. The modern world took the work away from children to be kind to them, and in doing so it took away the very thing that bonds a child to a family. My grandmother used to say, "You do not love a child by doing everything for him. You love a child by needing him, by giving him a place in the family that only he can fill. A child who is needed will never want to leave. A child who is useless to his own family is already halfway out the door." Let me tell you about Samuel and his boy, because it shows you the other half of how a family is held. Samuel was a neighbor of mine, a quiet man, and he had a son named Mose, who, as a young man, had a hardness in him, a restlessness, the kind that in the outside world walks out the door at 18 and is never close to his father again. And Samuel could have let that happen. He could have worked his own corner of the farm and let the boy work his. Two men under one roof growing colder every year, the way it so often goes. But Samuel did not. Every single day he worked beside that boy, in the field, in the barn, mending fence, pulling a stuck calf at 2 in the morning, side by side, hour after hour, year after year. They did not always talk. Often they worked in silence. But there is a thing that happens between a father and a son who labors side by side through 10,000 ordinary hours that cannot happen any other way. The boy learns who his father is, not from lectures, but from watching how the man works, how he treats an animal, how he handles a bad harvest without cursing the sky, how he keeps his word to a neighbor. And the father learns his son. The hardness in Mose did not vanish overnight, but it wore down slowly, the way a sharp stone wears smooth in a creek bed, ground down by all those hours of shared work and shared trouble. By the time Mose was a grown man with sons of his own, he had not scattered to the four winds the way the world's children do. He had built his own house on the far corner of his father's land, close enough that the grandchildren ran between the two homes all day long. 3 generations on one piece of ground. And when Samuel grew old and could no longer work, his son did not store him away somewhere. He brought him into the heart of the home and honored him until the day he died. That is what work shared between the generations builds. Not a family that scatters the moment the children are grown. A family that stays close, that holds, that keeps the old and the young woven into the same daily life, so that no one, young or old, is ever cut loose and set adrift. There is something else, something so simple that the world has overlooked it entirely, and it is this. We eat together, every day, all of us, around one table, with no machines glowing, no one rushing off, no one staring at a little screen instead of at the faces of the people who love them. We sit, and we bow our heads and give thanks, and then we eat, and we talk, and we are simply together for that hour, every single day of our lives. It does not sound like much, but I tell you, it is one of the strongest ropes that holds a family. Because a family that eats together every day cannot drift apart without noticing. You cannot lose touch with someone you sit beside every evening. You cannot become strangers to your own children if you break bread with them every single day for 18 years. The modern family stopped eating together. Everyone eats alone now, at different times, in different rooms, staring at different screens. And then they wonder why they feel like strangers under one roof. They are strangers. They never sit together. The table is empty. And a family with an empty table is a family already coming apart, even if no one has packed a bag yet. So if you take nothing else from this old man today, take this. Bring your family back to the table. 1 meal a day, with no screens, everyone there, every face turned toward every other face. It is the smallest thing and one of the most powerful. It costs nothing, and it can begin tonight. Now, I am an honest man, and I will not let you think we are perfect, because we are not. We have hard marriages too. We have children who break their parents' hearts. We have grief and conflict and stubbornness and the same human failings as anyone, because we are the same flesh and blood as you. I am not telling you that our way produces families with no pain. There is no such family anywhere. What I am telling you is that our way produces families that bend without breaking. When the storm comes, and it comes to every family, ours bend low to the ground, sometimes nearly flat, but the roots hold, and when the wind passes, they rise again. The modern family, with its shallow roots and its open exit door, snaps in the first real storm and is carried off in pieces. That is the difference. Not that we feel no pain, but that we have built something with roots deep enough and walls strong enough to survive the pain, instead of shattering at the first hard blow. And underneath all of it, holding all of it, is something I must speak of plainly. We believe a family is not only our own little arrangement to keep or discard as we please. We believe it is something sacred, something larger than us, something we answer to a higher power for. When 2 people marry among us, they are not signing a contract for their own happiness, the kind you can tear up when it no longer pleases you. They are making a covenant before God and before the whole community, and that changes everything. Because a promise made only to yourself can be unmade by yourself the moment it gets hard. But a promise made to something larger than yourself holds you even when you, on your own, would let go. I am not here to tell you what to believe. That is between you and your own heart. But I will tell you this much. A family that believes it is accountable only to its own passing feelings will follow those feelings right out the door. A family that believes it is part of something larger, something it does not have the right to simply abandon, finds the strength to stay when staying is hard. The world made the family small, just a private arrangement for personal happiness, and small things break easily. We kept the family large, kept it sacred, kept it bound to something greater. And what is bound to something greater than itself does not come apart so easily. So what do? You who cannot move on to a farm. You who already have a family that feels half broken, with cracks running through it that have been there for years. You do the same thing we do, just in your own world, one piece at a time. You begin by changing what you believe about family, deep down. You stop believing it is supposed to make you happy all the time, and you start believing it is something you stay inside of and tend through every season, the way a farmer stays with his land. You make the promise unbreakable again. First, in your own heart, you decide, I will not leave my people when the weather turns cold. I will stay and I will mend. Then you bring back the table. One meal, every day, all of you, no screens. Faces turned toward faces. Then you give the young ones in your life real work, real responsibility, a real place that only they can fill, so they know they are needed and belong. You make your home a place of work shared and meals shared, not a place where everyone retreats to separate rooms. And when the hard season comes, and it will, you do the thing the modern world forgot how to do. You stay in the room. You face the person across the table. You do the slow, painful, unglamorous work of mending instead of the quick, easy work of leaving. Because leaving feels like freedom for a moment, and then it is loneliness for the rest of your life. And staying feels like a prison for a moment, and then it becomes the deepest belonging a human being can know. Let me leave you with this, and then I am done. A family is not a feeling you have. A family is a thing you build, board by board, day by day, meal by meal, promise by promise, and then a thing you keep through every storm for as long as you live. The modern world told you that you deserve to be happy, and that anything which stops making you happy should be left behind, and it applied that even to your own flesh and blood. And so it raised a generation that knows how to leave and has forgotten how to stay. But staying is where the whole treasure is buried. Every deep thing in human life is on the far side of a hard season that most people quit before they reach. The deepest marriages, the strongest bonds between parents and grown children, the families that gather 4 generations strong around a table. All of them exist only because someone refused to leave when leaving would have been easy. You can still build this. It is not too late, even if your family is already scattered, even if there are years of silence and old wounds between you. You can be the one who stays. You can be the one who comes back to the table, who picks up the phone to the child who stopped calling, who refuses to let the silence win. Families do not fall apart in a day, and they do not get rebuilt in a day either. But they do get rebuilt, board by the one person stubborn enough to keep showing up. Be that person. Stay. Mend. Tend your people the way a farmer tends his land, through every season, trusting the roots. And the family that bends low in the storm, but does not break, will rise again when the wind passes. They always do. The roots are deeper than the storm. They always were. And it is never, ever too late to start sinking them down.